everybody, this is Chippy Jesse of YouTube, and I am not gonna lie, one of my last videos, I was, definitely emotionally charged. Now, I had a good reason for it, make no mistake, but still. So I have thought about doing something that's similar to how I remember a fair amount of people on YouTube were doing, which is making the same thing but in different software slash apps. And that just kind of gave me something for doing something like that for myself, but before we get to the actual video, a little bit of a background about myself. So I have my main channel, Chippy Jesse, but I also have another channel called Ava Carrot Staff. And that channel is where I create PVs, picture videos for those in the back. Now, what constitute as a PV? Well, in my case, it's more of the fanime slash web series that I have under my belt, but I also have the occasional parts for multi-animated projects and the very occasional animation memes that I used to do back in the day. With the first thing, I mainly do visual novel style works, but I have specific scenes that are basically went from simple CG, computer graphics, to a little bit more advanced editing in a way, and you know, we love to see it. Now, I'm still not 100% great, don't get me wrong, but I will say that I have gotten better at my craft compared to, like, you know, how things were in the 2014 era when I was still using Windows Movie Maker. And yeah, I know I have started video editing since 2010, which, oh god, it's been 15 years since I've been doing video editing, god help me. But you know, when it comes to like, you know, like when it comes to making fanime and then like participating in multi-animated projects, I've been doing it since like 2014, 2015. But yeah, that is my background. Now that we got that out of the way, we'll be creating like the same short PV in 8 different video editors that are slightly obscure. And probably one that's popular. There will also be 2 honorable mentions as well, since some of them I don't feel like re-recording. Now with this, there are some criteria that would feel like I need to bring up, at least for me specifically. There's custom aspect ratios where you could be able to customize the aspect ratio of your video. This one is not exactly important to like the average person. There is keyframe animation where you move like one object from one place to another. There's also motion blur where, you know, there's like you blur into motion. That one should be a little bit more self-explanatory, but if not, I'm sorry. There is also blending mode, so something that you would see in like our programs like for Alpaca, CritUp, etc. Another criteria is also opacity, so you know, if you change the opacity, it feels less opaque in a way. And distortion. For like the line boil methods, this one is very much the most me specific and might be less important for those in the back. Actually, a lot of those in the back. But yeah, those are my specific criteria. Without further ado, let's begin.
Good day, I'm Bob the Necromancer, and today we're doing an unboxing.
So I'm just gonna start out with depressing notes right off the bat. I love the hit film, and it makes me sad that it's no longer legally obtainable for those new to it. Now, I am still able to use it, though I kind of conned myself in this specific case for this specific computer, but that's besides the point. I had to use like a cracked version of the hit film for this specific computer. I could use a legal copy on the other computer, so it's all good? Question mark. With that out of the way, I'd say that this has everything that I need to make a specific PV. It does have like custom ratios, although it was better during the pre-Artlist era, but that's besides the point. Motion blurs and blending modes are very solid. Opacity is great, and heat distortion is basically my beloved. It's just the distortion was better, but you know, I can't have that anymore. Thanks, Artlist. But yeah, overall, despite everything, I still think that HitFilm is a great software for me to use for like all of my specific needs. One thing that I thought that was unique to HitFilm is like composite shots. Now, technically, these things do exist in other software, but they kind of go under different names. But yeah, like composite shots is like one of the things that I thought was kind of unique to HitFilm, and really loved using it. Heck, it was like a lot more obvious of like wanting to make a composite shot back then compared to like how it was in the current years. Well, I say past current years, but that's besides the point. That said, I do think HitFilm is kind of the best to make composite shots, so yeah. Anyways, I rambled on for a bit. I will say that that as much as I want to recommend HitFilm, I can't unless you are willing to use a cracked version of the software or are willing to email our list about it, and good luck dealing with that latter.
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program.
So I would like to preface this by saying that Kdenlive is not as beginner friendly as I thought. That being said, I do think that it is more user friendly compared to some of the other software that we'll get to later. Now, setting up custom ratios is kind of non-existent. It is set up in a way for either a video or a picture to have a specific ratio, and they'll ask you, be like, oh hey, would you like the video to be in this specific ratio? Everything else though is mainly fine. It does kind of have the whole set shit up yourself mentality, but once you figure that shit out, I'm sure it's worth knowing. The motion blur is good, and same goes for the opacity. The distortion effect and the blending modes are kinda okay. The latter was a little bit weird for me to figure out. Basically, if you want to have something that's blending together, it has to be like blending from the bottom rather than the top, and that was just weird for me to figure out. I'm just like, what the fuck is this type of backward stuff is this? One thing that is kind of unfortunate though is that the software does kind of crash a lot, so if you want to make a PV, either it's probably best to work on small potatoes, or like save every so often so you don't lose all of your progress. Now there are these things called sequences, and apparently they work similarly to how composite shots work in HitFilm. I have yet to fully try them out, but it is worth considering, like, in the future. But yeah, I would say that Kdenlive does have potential to be a great software for newcomers that are just coming out of the Clipchamp era of video editing, or maybe even professionals, really. There is a small amount of flaws, but it's worth checking out. And I also see that there's a roadmap on, like, Kdenlive's website, and honestly, I wish the people working on it the best of luck.
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program.
Yes, I am talking about the 0.1 version of Olive video editor, as 0.2 crashes a little more due to it being a little bit more unstable. Now, as of me talking about this, or like as of me recording, the website where I downloaded Olive from is kind of under construction, with the text saying, Olive will return soon. And the only way you could download those versions of Olive is like through GitHub, and I know there's like, there's some mixed opinions about GitHub in general. At least those within my circles, that is. But yeah, it does make me wonder if the folks behind Olive are developing a new version of the software. I guess we'll see in the future. In any case, as of this video's upload, I have 0.1 installed on this computer. Now, custom ratios are not exactly a thing. In fact, they kind of work similarly to how Kdenlive does it. Keyframing is fine, and same goes with the motion blur. Sadly, at least with version 0.1, there is no blending mode. But at the very least, there is opacity, so I made do with what I got. And not gonna lie, the ripple distortion is actually really great. With that said, sadly the export I got ended up being in low quality. I don't know if I did something wrong or it just ended up being like that. That I'm just like a little bit confuzzled about. The alpha PNG export is great though, I will say that. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, overall, this software sadly is not as good as Kdenlive, but it does have some potential. And hopefully it'll reach that potential within the new version. I also hope that it'll fix some of the issues that I have with it, but we'll see.
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program.
Dude, check out this SpongeBob umbrella I just got.
Dude, that's bad luck. Don't...
Chill out, bro.
Who summoned me?
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying that I'm sure it's a decent software in other areas, and it's one of the things I remember hearing about when I hear the phrase free alternative to Sony Vegas, because, you know, Sony Vegas was the popular software back in my day. And hell, like for regular video editing, this could be a great software. That being said, this software is not exactly good for making the type of PVs that I want to make. Trying to set up keyframing is not exactly user-friendly and is kind of dog water. And it was so ass to deal with that I just kind of gave up with almost everything else with this software. There are no distortion effects that would work with my type of workflow, and I couldn't even find the opacity and was too frustrated to look deeper. I'm sure that there's probably a motion blur or blending modes for this thing, but I was just so done with this software that I just kind of refused to check. Now again, I do want to reiterate, I'm pretty sure that this is good software for any other purposes, just not for my specific purposes, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, I was just so done with Lightworks that I ended up like wanting to end up comforting myself by making the whole combination of using Olive and Kdenlive. You'll see in a moment. But yeah, TLDR, Lightworks is not good for making PVs. Might be good for regular video editing purposes though.
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program. Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program.
Okay, so I kind of put this in as a bit of a joke because really, I think I was still kind of feeling like angry about Lightworks. Is there any distortion? No, that's not existent. That is not existent. Custom ratios? Nope, not even. And everything else, like keyframing, motion blur, blending mode, and the opacity, all have been done with Fire Alpaca. And I have to do it manually. But believe it or not, I had a much better time doing this than having my hands on Lightworks. But if you wanted me to be a little bit more serious for a moment, this software is not exactly great for fancy editing. And again, I have kind of used it as a joke. With that said, I say that it's basically a classic. So, you know, if you're not into the fancy editing and, you know, just wanna feel nostalgic or having faux nostalgia with Movie Maker, then I say give it a try? Question mark?
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program.
I'll give him a week.
I'll give him 11 minutes.
Yeah, believe it or not, Blender has its own built-in video editor. I'd say it's as surprising as when Blender announced having its own built-in 2D animation software within the 3D modeling software. Now, like with some of the other softwares, you know, setting up custom ratios is practically non-existent. And stuff like motion blurs, blending modes, and distortion are probably in the VFX parts of Blender, but not in the video editor part of it. I sadly did not know how to switch from the video editor to VFX department because, truth be told, Blender in general is a huge learning curve. And sadly, the video editor is not as versatile as I hoped it would be, but there is some potential with it, you know? At least with the version I got. I know that there's like a new version of Blender recently announced. But yeah, I'd say that this might take getting used to, especially if you're not familiar with Blender. If you are familiar with Blender, then this could be a good choice for video editing. At least I assume so, I don't know. But yeah, otherwise, I say it's probably best to look for the more simple alternatives for making a PV, you know what I'm saying?
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day, and may you enjoy the following program.
What are you, a man or a mouse?
That's right, we are using an online VFX editor. Let's go. Things to note right off the bat is that this has the ability to make custom ratios when you first make the project. Let's go! Yay! The keyframing is also pretty good, and same goes for the blending modes and the opacity. Sadly, something like motion blur or distortion weren't exactly a thing by the time I used it. So you know, I made do with what I got. One thing that is a little frustrating is that I either had to use Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge in order to pick them up. Now, those that may use Chrome regularly are probably fine, but I'm pretty darn sure that this would be a turnoff for everyone else that hates Google Chrome and especially hates Microsoft Edge. But yeah, all in all, this online editor does have like a lot of potential. It just needs a few more things is all. At least by the time that I last used it. I don't know if there's more added, but we'll see.
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day, and may you enjoy the following program.
Now, I do have like some honorable mentions. Namely, like video editors that are mainly apps on mobile devices, and I have already made the PVs for it, but I don't feel like re-recording them because, good lord, that's gonna be so much work, and I don't feel like doing that. Anyways, let's get to the point. Firstly is LumaFusion. It's probably the only video editing app I actually went out of my way to pay for because it was like pre-installed into my Galaxy tablet. I will say that it is a decent app for those that are mainly Android users. At least the type of Android users that are willing to pay for video editing apps. But if you want something that's more free, there is VN Video Editor. Yes, that's the name of the app. I am a little bit more mixed on this one compared to Luma. But that is because of the fact that it's something you have to put visual first before putting in the audio, and this is the type of shit that I suspect from Windows Movie Maker when it's in the Windows Live Movie Maker era. But other than that, it's fine. I'm not too sure if it's exactly great for PVs. However, if you want something that's like more similar to CapCut, then this might be for you. I don't know, I've heard that, like, people say that this could be a good alternative to CapCut, so I take their word, not mine.
Daddy, I love him!
Yes, you are saying this correctly. After a million failed attempts, I finally got this bloody software to work. To make a whole-ass long story short, the reason why I had so much trouble installing DaVinci in the past is because I had too many USBs plugged into both of my computers, and I had to unplug all of them from one of them in order for DaVinci to reinstall. No, I am not shitting you. That was one of the things I remember somebody who was on the HitFilm subreddit was having that to learn when they tried to install DaVinci Resolve. And when I got it to work after a whole month of failing, because the solution was that simple, I wanted to throw up. Like, oh my god, it's that simple. God. Anyways, existential crisis aside, what do I think about DaVinci? More specifically, version 19. Well, it does have a bit of a learning curve to it, but honestly, I kind of like it. The keyframing, while it's not as simple as head film, it's not half bad. And the blending modes are really nice. The motion blur I have not really figured out because, again, there's a learning curve to DaVinci. The distortion is kind of interesting because there's two ways of going about with it. See, the built-in distortion effects that are available in the free version of DaVinci, it's kind of ass. But if you're using the fusion parts and have used something like the turbulent displace and post-source time plugins that are some of the lovely folks have made, it's actually pretty nice. Now, I was not exactly great at using it, hence why the final result was kind of a little bit wonky, but still, I was happy I was able to test it out. Overall, I do kind of have a lot of feelings about the software, because installing it was a pain in the ass for me specifically, but it does have a lot of potential. Maybe one of these days I'll learn it to decide in case if HitFilm kind of crashes and burns to a point where I cannot be able to use even the cracked version of the software anymore. That said, I will say that I still recommend Kdenlive for other aspects, i.e. lower end computers, but I will recommend DaVinci Resolve at least over Lightworks. I say download the Windows x86 installer and then disconnect every USB device and then you'll be settled. Especially if you're on a laptop. Do not make the same fucking mistake that I have made.
Hello there. I hope you're having a good day and may you enjoy the following program.
So despite some stressful moments, especially with Lightworks, overall I did have fun for the making of this video. Honestly, it has kind of been a bit of a learning experience to see which editor works and which one doesn't. Whether it's universal keyframe animation to something more me-specific like distortion. I will say that despite my critiques towards a lot of these software, namely Lightworks, when it comes to making a PV, they are by no means terrible software. And for regular video editing, I'm pretty sure that they are relatively great software. I mean, hell, the way my dumbass works doesn't really work this similarly to how somebody who would edit for a big YouTuber would work. And you know what? That's essentially fine. We practically live on different planets at that point. I myself am still gonna use HitFilm as my main video editor, but as I kind of said, if it no longer works to a point where future operating systems would not be able to work with it to a point where compatibility mode, which is something that people forget exists, wouldn't be able to work, then I may work with DaVinci Resolve or Kdenlive. At least in that possible future. Then again, I do remember hearing about something that people's using the 2011 version of Sony Vegas in the modern year of our King of Town 2025, so maybe I should be fine, but we'll see. I will say that if you are like me and DaVinci is a little bit too intimidating for you, then, there is the line boil method with Olive and everything else for Kden. Again, I have a document in the description. And hopefully there'll be a time where Kdenlive will allow plugins much like how Resolve allows plugins. And I do hope good updates for both Kdenlive and Olive Video Editor. But yeah, each software does work differently for each person, so, that's just how it be, my guys. That said, one more thing though, and this is something that I have just thought about, recent. This is an extra piece of information. So if you're the more selfish parts of myself and not exactly satisfied with any of the distortion effects, except for edge distortion, which in HitFilm Pro, which, cannot be obtained anymore, thanks Artlist. I have recently made a method of using the shear square effect in Ibis Paint, when using it 10 times, exporting the file as the Photoshop file and importing said Photoshop file into File Alpaca, turning on animation mode, and then export each different variants of each frame with export layers. And then boom, you got your distortion frames. You can import those frames as an image sequence in a video editor software / app of your choice that allows you to do something like that, really. Now, this is something that might be a little bit more work compared to just simply do the video editing, but surely it'd still be easier than like drawing each frame out to make a line boil. If you want like other methods outside of the ones I talked about in this video, I do have like my other video about like the line boil technique, since I talked about like software like Clip Studio Paint and Adobe Flash. And yes, I did say Adobe Flash because Adobe Animate seems to be like ass right now. Anyways, with that out of the way, I hope you find this video to be informative. Or at the very least, I hope you find it to be entertaining. And with that, that is that. This is Chibi Jesse of YouTube signing out. Goodbye!